When you're in this group, it's like being in the fun house, at the carnival, where it's just like the house of mirrors, and you look in one mirror and you're like really short and fat, and the other one you're tall and skinny, and it's like there's all these, it's like, whoa, you're dizzy, and it's like, what, where's this person coming from? It's a lot. That is what being a part of a group is like, because you're getting these reflections from all these different angles of you. Some of them are flattering. Some people make you feel confident. They're showing you your self-confidence. Other people are insecure, and they're bringing up your insecurities. And so when you start talking out of turn within the group, everyone starts to look at you like, wait, what's wrong with that mirror? I don't like the way I look in that mirror. Get him out of there. He doesn't belong here. She doesn't belong here. What this eclipse is doing is shedding that off and saying, we all belong. We all belong here. That's why we're here. If we didn't belong here, we wouldn't be here, but we're here. We're all here on planet Earth. And it doesn't matter what lines you draw on a map. It doesn't matter what you try to separate people by, religion or beliefs or whatever it is. You like the Seahawks. I like the Patriots. We're all here together. Welcome to the Weekly Transit, your guide to understanding the current planetary and astral alignments. Together, we'll explore how to harness these cosmic frequencies, empowering you to reach your highest potential as you navigate the days ahead. I'm your host, Scott Tajarian. Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of February 16th to the 22nd, where we will be covering 6 transits this week, highlighted by the new Moon Solar Eclipse in Aquarius, the Sun transiting into Pisces, and Saturn and Neptune forming a conjunction at 0 degrees in Aries, which is our Substack essay of the week. How are you? How have you been doing with these intense stelliums? The Aquarius stellium has lessened a little bit with Mercury and Venus transiting into Pisces. The Sun transits into Pisces this week. But how was that Aquarius stellium for you? I mean, it felt pretty intense to me. Maybe that's just because I have several planets in Scorpio, but there can be a real harshness or coldness to Aquarius. It's also an energy that is very high vibration, but sometimes that vibration can sort of disconnect you from feeling, and it can be very intense. There's that fixed nature to Aquarius, so it's kind of like stagnant air, where maybe it's like you need to open a window to get some fresh air in there. It just feels like I'm having trouble breathing in here. I'm just curious to know. I felt like, people that I've been talking to that, it was pretty intense, and it remains intense, and the intensity is now moving to Pisces because when the Sun transits into Pisces, there's going to be another stellium, except it's going to be in Pisces, which is a whole different frequency, which we'll get into in a bit when we talk about the Sun in Pisces. Last week, Saturn transited into Aries. That brought about a lot of tension, I think, when Saturn was sitting there at 29 degrees in Pisces, just inching its way into Aries, just really shredding our unconscious, all the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame being exposed, because it's going to be exposed. It is exposed now with Saturn in Aries. I didn't mention last week because it wasn't done yet, but I have a guide to following Saturn in Aries, where we're going to cover every single transit that Saturn makes over the next 26 months as it transits through Aries. So if you are looking for a guide to support you over the next 26 months that involves Saturn in Aries, the planet of responsibility, achievement, authority in the sign of self-love, that's where the work is needing to be done. The work is needing to be done in terms of your love for yourself, your self-expression, because Aries is cardinal fire. It's symbolized by the ram. It's ruled by Mars, the planet of courage. In order to have courage, you have to have love for yourself. And so this guide is very, it covers a lot. I think it's like over 50 pages. So you're going to get your money's worth, I think, I hope. If you like the 2026 astrology guide, this is similar to that, except it's going to be over the next 26 months, and it's focusing in on Saturn and the dates of every transit that it's making and how to work with that energy to your benefit. It's here to support you. You can get it at theweeklytransit.com. The first transit of the week, Mercury in Pisces, trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer at 15 degrees. This is occurring from Sunday to Tuesday, with the exact trine occurring on Monday, February 16th. We covered this from a historical perspective last week or the week before, where we talked about how this is the first time that Mercury is forming 3 trines as it transits through Pisces with Jupiter in Cancer. First time this has happened since 1836, which, from a historical perspective is very interesting when you think about what's going on in the world, or, specifically in the United States right now in terms of border and who belongs here, who doesn't belong here, and that whole conversation. It echoes what was occurring in 1836 when Mercury was transiting retrograde through Pisces. It's not retrograde yet, but it's going to be. The retrograde, Mercury begins its retrograde in Pisces. That happens on February 25th. But because of the retrograde, it's forming 3 trines with Jupiter in Cancer. The first 2, Jupiter is retrograde. The third one, both Mercury and Jupiter are direct. This time Mercury is direct. The next one, Mercury and Jupiter are both retrograde. This is the first of 3 times. So the second time is March 8th. The third time is April 3rd. But going back to 1836, that was during the Alamo, when there was that big battle between the Americans or Texans and the Mexican army, and everybody, all the Americans died at the Alamo, and that was kind of like the rallying cry for Texas independence. And what's interesting is when you look back, Mexico was outlawing slavery. And so part of what the Texans were fighting for is maintaining slavery. And to the point where when the Texas Constitution was written, if you were a free black man living in Texas, you had to petition Congress in order to allow yourself to remain free. But slavery was all good in Texas back then. So you have this battle over the land and over property. When you think of Jupiter transiting through Cancer, that's the sign that represents the home. This was also during this exact same period in 1836 when Mercury in Pisces was forming 3 trines with Jupiter in Cancer. Was when the Cherokee Nation signed away all their land to the United States. I mean, it was a couple people that really didn't have the authority to do so, to the point where the chief of the Cherokee Nation and pretty much all 16,000 members of the nation signed a petition. The chiefs went to Washington, D.C. to deliver it personally and saying, we're not doing this. But Congress still ratified the treaty and took the land from the Cherokee, which began the Trail of Tears. And this was also during a period where you weren't even allowed to speak about abolitionists in Congress. There was a gag rule from 1836 to 1844 that said anyone petitioning Congress about slavery or the abolitionist movement were to be silenced. So you can maybe see some of the similarities of what's occurring here. Mercury is the sign of the conscious. It's transiting through the sign of it's the planet of the conscious. It's transiting through the sign of the unconscious. So because of that, Mercury is in its fall, it's in its detriment, but I really see this is the opportunity is to awaken yourself to what is going on beneath the surface of your mind. The guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame, your connection to spirituality and a higher power. And the connection to Jupiter, which is the planetary ruler of Pisces, the mutable water sign symbolized by the fish, ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. While Jupiter transits through Cancer, the sign where it's exalted, the cardinal water sign symbolized by the crab and ruled by the moon, the planet of emotions. So there's a lot of potency here. As you can see historically what happened in 1836. To really think about how you are communicating with others, and are you communicating from that sense of compassion and empathy? Do you feel the suffering of others? And if you are ignoring that suffering, what is going on beneath the surface of your mind that is creating that cloud to look away? Perhaps it feels overwhelming to take in the suffering of others. There might be feelings of guilt or shame because there's really nothing you can do. Or it seems like there's nothing you can do. But we also discount our power as individuals. And every little motion and movement that you make creates a ripple that carries across the ether and connects to everyone that you are connected to. And through them, everyone they're connected to. I see this in my own reality. This may sound a little crazy, but I notice these patterns that sort of pop up where it feels like I'm creating a trend. Now, like this is I'm not coming to you from like an egotistical perspective or anything like that. They're just things that I notice. It's like back like maybe it was like 15, 20 years ago, I grew my hair out really long. If it was wet, it would have been down to the center of my back. But because I have such curly hair, it would always sit like at my shoulders. And because I, worked in a restaurant and, they didn't want the hair down, I had to put it up. So I'd put it up in a little bun. And about 5, 10 years later, like I remember, I think it was my cousin's wife was like, "Oh, Scott, you started the man bun." I'm like, "What? What's the man bun?" She's like, "That's what it's called now. Everybody has these things. Like all the guys are growing their hair out and they put it up in this little ball and it's called the man bun." I'm like, "Okay." So there's that example. I used to go to this Carl's Jr. In Hollywood every week. At least once a week, I'd be at this Carl's Jr. at the drive-thru after work, getting a double Western bacon cheeseburger. And then, I started to want to get more healthy. And so I stopped going to this Carl's Jr. And I swear within 6 months, it was out of business. It was gone. I'm like, oh my God. I wonder if that had something to do with me. I drink this water, Mountain Valley. I started drinking Mountain Valley water. This was back in, it would have been probably 10, oh no, longer than that. It was like 12, 13 years ago. We were doing a remodel at the restaurant, and this guy came in. He was like this water sommelier. He's really famous on the internet. His name's Martin. But he's got like hundreds of thousands of followers, and he's an interesting guy because he comes from Germany, and he is saying how he's the only person that has like a zero visa or something, which is like a specific visa or I don't know, pass to be here in the United States because he is a water expert. And he gave us this whole breakdown of all the different waters in the restaurant that we had, and one of them was Mountain Valley. And I was like, okay, I like this Mountain Valley. It's not too showy of like certain waters, and it's from the United States. So I'm like, I'm gonna start buying this Mountain Valley water. Well, now it's like I see all these people drinking Mountain Valley, and it's like they sell it by the case in four of the grocery stores that I go to. It's just like there's always case displays. Well, I buy it by the case. And to the point where it's like I went to this one grocery store and it was like I was going to buy a box and they're like, it's $43. I'm like, $43? What? I mean, a month ago it was like $32. Like, what's going on here? So I'd never bought at this one place, but I'm like, maybe I should start another trend. Maybe I need to start drinking a different water because I don't want to spend $43 for this case of water. So my point is that I've noticed that when I make little choices, they're seemingly small choices, and I could give you more and more examples. Most of it has to do with like the grocery store, and when I'm shopping in the grocery store, if I'm buying a certain thing, I see that it's displayed more. The price goes up, and then I stop buying it, and then it kind of disappears. My point is if you think you can't do anything to change the world, you're wrong. I mean, the greatest story of this is Rosa Parks, who, decided to stop riding the bus. And, that was a clear political statement, but it was a powerful one. The Boston Tea Party was a powerful political statement. You can change the world by where you're spending your money, the choices that you're making, with the way that you look, the way that you speak, who you connect to, what you're doing each and every day. Literally, the most powerful person in the world is you. It's the person that's staring you back in the mirror every day. And Mercury in Pisces trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, happening 3 times. So it's happening February 16th, March 8th, and April 3rd. Think of these dates. Where do you want to be by April 3rd? The power here is to help you reimagine your thought process, your connection to the higher power, because the higher power is channeling through you. And your connection to home, your emotional nature. What is going to satisfy you emotionally? What can satisfy you emotionally that would be rooted or founded in kindness? How can I be more kind and compassionate to the people around me, to the people that I come into contact with. Because the other way is it can be completely delusional. Was it kind and compassionate to not accept the petition by the Cherokee Nation when the people that were really in charge said, no, we actually don't want to give away our land? Was it kind and compassionate to gag people for speaking about the abolitionist movement in Congress? It seems like back then people were more comfortable in the delusion, in the fantasy of what they wanted their home to be. So there is some powerful, powerful energy at work here with this trine that is really encouraging us to open our minds and to see things beyond the narrow binary of choices that we seem to be given in our lives. To expand beyond the 1 and the 0. Or to really see the depth that exists between those 2 points, red and blue, 1 and 0. Curious to hear reflections on this. That leads us to the second transit of the week, the new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, which is occurring at 28 degrees, the Cancer degree, at 4:02 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The group, that's Aquarius. Aquarius is the fixed air sign, symbolized by the water bear. The water bear invented the jug not for themselves, but for the village. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, the god of time, Uranus, the planet of revolution, of independence. The water bear invented the jug for the village because in inventing the jug, instead of everybody going down to the stream each and every day, it only had to be a couple people, a few people that would fill up these jugs, take the water back to the village for everybody to utilize, drinking, bathing. It created more independence. It freed up time. Not everybody had to spend time going down to the stream, to the water source each and every day. It created a greater sense of independence for everyone. The flip side of the coin of Aquarius is, if you don't look like me, if you don't talk like me, if you don't think like me, then there's something wrong with you. And I really feel like that's a sickness that we have in our world right now, where we have these polarizing viewpoints that refuse to listen to one another. And we need to be having greater compassion and kindness towards each other. So the group is screaming for your loyalty. Who do you belong to? But the eclipse is asking for your truth. They're not the same thing. See, the water bear was able to invent the jug because the water bear was thinking differently than everybody else in the village. If the water bear was thinking like everybody else in the village, the water bear would have never invented the jug. Because nobody had invented the jug until the water bear thought differently than everyone else. So it's like, what side are you on? Are you on our side? Well, I agree with some of what your side says, but I can see things from, then you're against us. Oh, okay. So basically, you're saying you have a list of the way things need to be, and if I don't check every single box on that list, then I'm not a part of your group. Huh. Okay. Well, I don't want to be a part of your group then, because I don't want to put on the facade. But then I go to the other group, and the other group says, oh, well, yeah, we'll take you in. Yeah, that other group is bad. But you believe this, right? Oh, yeah, I agree with that. And this? Yeah, sure. And this and this and that? Well, those things, okay, then you can't be here. Oh. Okay, so I can't be in that group or this group. Huh. Great. Time to form my own group. The eclipse is burning off that old energy. When you think about what is an eclipse, what is an eclipse? The solar eclipse is literally, here we are on Earth. There's the sun furthest away from us. The moon closer to us. The moon moves between us and the sun, and it blacks out the sun. But you can see that ring of fire around the moon. And so it's burning something off. It's like the old light is not extinguished, it's outlined. And you can see the shape of what is being replaced, which is harder than losing it in darkness. You have to watch yourself change. This is the 5th consecutive new moon at 28 degrees, the Cancer degree. For 5 months, every new lunar cycle has carried the same undercurrent. The need for emotional safety, the ache for belonging, the question of where home actually lives inside of you. In Libra, the Cancer degree asked it through partnerships. In Scorpio, through your shadows. In Sagittarius, through your beliefs. In Capricorn, through your ambitions. Now in Aquarius, the Cancer degree asks the hardest version of the question, whether the collective you belong to actually holds space for who you are becoming, or only for who you agreed to be. Well, you're a part of this group, so this is how you have to think. And if you don't like it, then you can't be a part of this group anymore. Oh. I have 2 babies. Twins. They're almost 3 months old. They don't do anything except for eat and poop in a diaper. But they have such incredible value. I don't know at what point do people go from being a baby where all they're doing is eating and pooping, and they have incredible value, to the point where it's like, well, if you want to earn your keep, then you got to do what I say. You have value now. Doesn't matter what you do. If all you're doing is eating and pooping, you have value. Because the next time the planets and stars will be aligned in the way that they were aligned when you were born is over 25,000 years from the date, time, and place of your birth. So you are a divine, unique miracle. But we're also born under the planets and stars as everyone else, which means that everyone that we come into contact with in some way, shape, or form is reflecting you, and you are reflecting them. And so when you're in this group, it's like being in the fun house, at the carnival, where it's just like the house of mirrors, and you look in one mirror and you're like really short and fat, and the other one you're tall and skinny, and it's like there's all these, it's like, whoa, you're dizzy, and it's like, what, where's this person coming from? It's a lot. That is what being a part of a group is like, because you're getting these reflections from all these different angles of you. Some of them are flattering. Some people make you feel confident. They're showing you your self-confidence. Other people are insecure, and they're bringing up your insecurities. And so when you start talking out of turn within the group, everyone starts to look at you like, wait, what's wrong with that mirror? I don't like the way I look in that mirror. Get him out of there. He doesn't belong here. She doesn't belong here. What this eclipse is doing is shedding that off and saying, we all belong. We all belong here. That's why we're here. If we didn't belong here, we wouldn't be here, but we're here. We're all here on planet Earth. And it doesn't matter what lines you draw on a map. It doesn't matter what you try to separate people by, religion or beliefs or whatever it is. You like the Seahawks. I like the Patriots. We're all here together. And the quickest path to peace is recognizing that everybody has value. Everybody has value. You don't have to like another person. Just like when I go to the grocery store and I'm like, oh, yeah, that squash has value. There is a price on it. People pay it and they eat it and they find that it has value to them. I don't like it. I don't like squash. I don't want to eat it. To me, it doesn't have value, but I do recognize that it does have value. For other people, not me. I don't go and take all the squash and it doesn't belong in the grocery store. This squash doesn't belong here. I don't eat it. I don't want it here anymore. No, other people, they like it. Okay, great. We all have value. So this eclipse is really putting up the mirrors of the funhouse and saying, are you pretending? Is the group pressuring you to be something that you're not? Are you subjugating yourself to the group? Burn it up. Burn it off. Be yourself. You are who you are. And you learn from other people and they learn from you. But you shouldn't feel forced to be something that you're not. The third transit of the week, Venus conjunct the North Node, retrograde in Pisces at 8 degrees. This is occurring from Sunday to Wednesday, with the exact conjunction occurring the same day as the eclipse, Tuesday, February 17th. This is interesting to me. This is prophetic to me because Venus is the planet of relationships. The North Node is the soul's purpose, the karmic pathway of the soul. Pisces is the sign where Venus is exalted. It's in a position of power here because in order to be a good friend, you need to have compassion and empathy for the people that you're in relationship with. And maybe this conjunction is bringing to your awareness from your unconscious through your sensory experience of life and the people that you're connecting to, where you realize, okay, do I want to be in a relationship with somebody who has no empathy for me, who has no compassion for me, who is constantly pointing out everything that I do wrong, and I always feel belittled or incomplete around this individual? Maybe that is what the eclipse is showing you. Oh, yeah, I don't need to subjugate myself. I don't need to subject myself to being around this person or these people that are making me feel less than or speaking down to me. But then I won't have any friends. Well, with friends like that, who needs enemies? You know the phrase. Venus conjunct the North Node in Pisces is washing away all the BS. It's like those wipes cleaning my kids' butts, washing off the poop. Helping you reimagine what relationships are meant to be. Even if somebody is like, listen, I don't agree with you. That's not my outlook, but I can see and understand why it's yours. And I have empathy for you because of that. This conjunction between Venus and the North Node is helping you reimagine the dream of what relationships can be. And with this happening the same day of the eclipse, maybe you're recognizing that the group that you're a part of or some relationships that you're a part of, like, it can't keep doing it this way. And it does require faith to say, no, I'm not going to fall in line here. This doesn't feel right to me. It takes faith. It takes faith to know that you're going to step out of line in a way that may remove you from the people that have surrounded you for however long. Because most people don't want to be alone forever. We like alone time, but we want to know that there are people around us that like us and support us, and we support them, and our support is appreciated by them. So to leave a group or a community does require faith. And that's what Venus conjunct the North Node retrograde in Pisces is helping provide for us, where we're able to take that leap of faith, even if we don't know where we're going to land. The fourth transit of the week, the Sun transits into Pisces, where it will be from February 18th to March 20th. The Sun is the giver of light, life, and vitality. So it's bringing its light, life, and vitality through the final sign. The sign that carries the weight of the 11 previous signs. The sign that is symbolized by the fish. Those very intuitive creatures that know whether to be swimming upstream, downstream, shallow water, deep water, fresh water, salt water. They're feeling what's in the water and they're moving based upon what they feel in the water. And we all know the phrase, drink like a fish. So Pisces rules drugs and alcohol. Netflix and chill, binge watching, doom scrolling. Everything that goes on a screen is fantasy. Even if it's real, it's being curated in a way that draws you in. You're not necessarily getting the full picture because you're only seeing what they show you. We are in the age of Pisces, which began at the birth of Christ, which is why the symbol for Christ before the cross was the fish. I will make you fishers of men. Jesus walked on water. Jesus fed the people with fish. Was Jesus real? Was he a real person? Was he not real? What really happened? Who shot JFK? Who killed RFK? What happened in 9/11? What happened in COVID? Who killed Charlie Kirk? What happened there? Is he dead? Is he not dead? Is Tupac dead? We live in the age of Pisces. It's mystery. We don't know. Everyone has their theories of what happened. There's the story, the facts. But then who gave the facts? I saw another one recently, Kurt Cobain. Did he commit suicide? No, he was murdered. That's what the new evidence says, but the police department is saying we're not reopening this. The evidence hasn't changed. We don't have new evidence. The strange thing for me about Cobain was always, wait, who shoots up heroin and then shoots themselves in the head with a shotgun? Like heroin gets you high. You feel good. So I don't understand but yeah, that was always peculiar to me. But we don't know. It's a mystery. We live in the age of Pisces, where we're not sure what is clear. It's like the fish swim in the ocean. What is that? Is it a dolphin? Is it a shark? Can't tell. It's too murky, too cloudy. Not really sure what we're seeing now. If you're not sure what you can see, then it's faith that you must hold on to. And Jesus said, faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. So, what little faith we have, because I haven't seen anyone move a mountain. We are in a period of needing to have faith, needing to let go, to release control. It's like I have to teach my children about faith. I'm not going to drop you. I'm holding you. You're safe. It's okay. So with the sun in Pisces, check in with your faith. Where are you feeling a loss of faith? Where are you feeling maybe an anxious urge to do this or that or the next thing? We got to do these things because if we don't, then all's going to be lost. Are you being compassionate to others? Are you being empathetic? With the sun in Pisces, the veil is thinned. We feel the suffering of others. And when we feel the suffering of others, that's often when we want to escape. because the suffering of others awakens us to our own suffering, or to where we have maybe caused suffering in others, which we don't want to acknowledge that. I didn't do that. No, I would never do something like that. But you can't hide. When the sun is bringing its vibrant light into Pisces, you're able to see through the clouds. Oh my God, what is existing in my mind? Look at all those demons. Show them love. They want your attention. It's not easy. It's challenging. And could be especially challenging for those that have key astrological points or planets in Gemini or Sagittarius, which are both mutable. Air, Gemini, fire, Sagittarius, Pisces, water. Air and water don't mix. Fire boils water. Water extinguishes fire. There's tension here. So again, I love mentioning all my Sagittarius Pluto generation people, 1995 to 08. Sometime during this period, depending on when you were born, the sun is going to square your Pluto. So this is a very heavy transformational period where maybe your honesty, you fire that arrow and it ends up hitting you directly in the heart. Somehow comes back to you. Or maybe you're being too harsh on yourself. Gemini just likes to keep everything light. Haha, yeah. Small talk. But Pisces like, no, we got to go deep to the depths. We don't do small talk, Pisces. We talk about all the suffering that happens in the world and how we're all responsible for it. We don't care about the weather. We don't care about Real Housewives of whatever the hell that is, or whatever show you're watching, or TikTok. We want to go deep. We want to dive into the suffering. And so Gemini, Sagittarius, your good times are over. February 18th to March 20th. No, come on. It's not going to be, hopefully not that bad. But, it's just a reminder that we're all feeling what it's like to be Pisces during this period. And we are being called to go to the depths, to really try to understand why we are triggered, that word, which triggers, by this or that or the next thing. What are you hiding from? What are you shameful of? What are you regretful of? Go within. Reflect. The sixth transit of the week, or the fifth transit of the week, Saturn Conjunct Neptune in Aries. 0 degrees. This dissolves the fantasy, or brings the fantasy into reality. February 13th to March 16th, the exact conjunction occurring Friday, February 20th. I got a lot to say about that. That's that Substack essay we're going to get to in a minute. But let's talk about the final transit of the week. Venus in Pisces, trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. So this is echoing the first transit of the week. Mercury forming that trine to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, also at 15 degrees. This is occurring from Friday to Monday, with the exact trine occurring Sunday, February 22nd. So it's same song, different instrument. Mercury is the instrument of the mind. Venus is the instrument of the senses. So it's bringing up feeling around home, family, the past. It's helping you reflect upon the roots of your relationships, the origin of how you relate to people. You can look at every relationship in your life and think back to, who was I when I met this person? Because maybe you're in a point now where it's like, you think about that eclipse. It's like, how did I end up in this group? Well, I ended up in this group back when, fill in the blank. I was insecure about myself. I didn't have high self-esteem. And because of that, I attracted people that put me down. You might go back to the origin of relation. Oh, my parents talked down to me. Their parents talked down to them. This is a family trait where we're being belittled. And so, of course, I would find myself in a group that's belittling me because my parents belittled me, their parents belittled them, their grandparents, my grandparents. It's like, go back down the line. So much trauma and abuse in this world. It's never a surprise why people treat each other so poorly, because we always have. But it's not always that way. And Venus in Pisces trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer is helping bring to the surface of, how can I be more empathetic and kind in my relationships? Maybe I'm not the victim here of everybody's putting me down. Maybe I've been the person that's putting people down, that's talking trash about people. I need to be kinder. I need to be more compassionate. I need to feel what it's like to be that person in that situation that I don't understand. And this is all so important with Saturn in Aries. Because Saturn in Aries is the work over the next 26 months is loving yourself. Oh my God, that's hard. How can I love myself when I've done all these bad things to other people, or when I've done things in my life that I regret? You're so dumb. Why'd you do that? You ruined it. You could have been amazing, but you did this instead of that, and now you're you're so dumb. Everybody was so right. No. But that's going to come up, yeah. But we got to love ourselves through that. We got to find the love for ourselves here. That's the work. That's the hard work over the next 26 months. Is working on that self-love. It's especially hard to do when we're filled with fear. Filled with fear. Saturn in Aries is going to bring up a lot of fear. We did that essay last week, the historical, you look historically, when Saturn's in Aries, it brings up some challenging periods. 1937 and 1940, World War II, beginning of the Holocaust, Great Depression, 67, 68, Vietnam War, Martin Luther King, Robert F. Kennedy assassinations. That's the work. Self-love. Which brings us to the Substack essay of the week. Thank you to everyone who is subscribed to my Substack and all the paid subscribers as well. Thank you to everyone who is subscribing to Spotify for the auditory 5 core questions, which are also on Substack for the paid subscribers. If you want to hear and read, that's the Substack subscription. If you are happy just listening, then subscribe to the Spotify. I appreciate your support. When the dream becomes visible, Saturn conjunct Neptune through 3 centuries, and what happens when they return to Aries. This destruction of the T is so bold, so daring, so firm, intrepid, and inflexible, and it must have so important consequences and so lasting that I can't but consider it as an epocha in history. John Adams, December 17th, 1773, Saturn at 25 degrees Virgo Neptune at 20 degrees Virgo, 2 months after their exact conjunction at 18 degrees. Every 36 years, Saturn and Neptune meet at the same degree in the same sign. Saturn, the god of wealth and time, the planet of structure, responsibility, and the cold architecture of reality. Neptune, the god of fresh water and the sea, planet of dreams, illusions, and the invisible currents that move beneath the surface of what we call civilization. When these two converge, the dream a society has been living inside becomes visible as a dream. What was mistaken for permanent reality is revealed as construction. And the only question that remains is whether you rebuild consciously or cling to the rubble. Their conjunction is never quiet. It collapses institutions that have outlived their truth. It dissolves boundaries between what is real and what was only believed. And it asks of individuals and empires alike whether the structures you have built serve the life within them or merely imprison it. Since 1703, Saturn and Neptune have met 10 times. Each conjunction carried a different sign, a different degree, and a different chapter in the human story of what happens when reality and illusion can no longer be told apart. On February 20th, 2026, they meet again at 0 degrees Aries, the first degree of the first sign. For the first time in 323 years, this conjunction returns to the sign where the self is forged through action. And at 0 degrees, there is no secondary coloring. The degree doubles the energy of the sign it occupies. This is Aries squared, pure, undiluted initiation. To understand what that means, we have to trace the rhythm. 1703, the window forced open. Aries, 11 degrees. On March 27th, 1703, Saturn and Neptune met at 11 degrees Aries, the Aquarius degree. And in that single degree, the entire era reveals itself. This was not Aries' raw confrontation. This was Aries filtered through Aquarius, the reformer, the modernizer, the one who fights not for personal glory, but to drag an entire civilization into its future. 2 months before the exact conjunction, Peter the Great laid the foundation stone for St. Petersburg on the marshy banks of the Neva River. He was building a city from nothing, a window to the west, to wrench Russia out of centuries of isolation and remake it as a European power. He redesigned the army, built a navy from scratch, opened Russia's first newspaper, secularized the church, and replaced the old feudal hierarchy with a merit-based bureaucracy. Aries initiates, Aquarius reforms. Peter did both with the force of a man who understood that the old dream of Holy Russia, insular, theocratic, frozen in tradition, had become a cage. But the same transit energy moved through his opponents. The Streltsy rebels and old believers, the boyar aristocracy, they felt the same Aries fire as a call to defend what they knew. Peter crushed them with brutality that matched his vision and scale. The Streltsy were executed by the hundreds, their bodies displayed as warnings. 30,000 serfs died building St. Petersburg, conscripted from across the empire to raise a city on a swamp because one man's dream demanded it. This is what Saturn, Neptune, and Aries looks like when the initiator refuses to negotiate with the past. Revolutionary clarity purchased at devastating human cost. Peter loved his vision more than he feared the resistance, and the resistance feared the future more than they loved the structures they were defending. The same fire, different relationships to it. 1773. The inventory of grievances. Virgo, 18 degrees. 70 years later, Saturn and Neptune met at 18 degrees Virgo. A Virgo degree in Virgo, double Virgo. And the revolution it seeded was not born in rage, but in meticulous accounting. On December 16th, 1773, colonialists dumped 342 chests of British tea into Boston Harbor, not as a spontaneous eruption, but as the culmination of years of itemized objections to taxation without representation. John Adams recognized it immediately for what it was, an epocha. The colonies were not simply angry, they were organized. They had cataloged every offense, weighed every injustice, and determined with Virgoan precision that the existing structure no longer served. Within 3 years, the Declaration of Independence would present the case for revolution as a detailed inventory of violations, grievance by grievance, line by line. On the other side, King George and Parliament responded with their own Virgoan instinct. The coercive acts, an attempt to systematize and tighten control over the colonies. Both sides were doing Virgo's work. One was cataloging freedom, the other was cataloging order. The same energy, two irreconcilable purposes. 1846. The dream discovers itself. Aquarius, 27 degrees. On April 3rd, 1846, Saturn and Neptune met at 27 degrees Aquarius. 5 months later, on September 23rd, astronomers identified Neptune for the first time through a telescope at the Berlin Observatory. The planet of dreams discovered during its own conjunction with the planet of reality. Neptune had always been there. It took Saturn's presence to make it visible. The metaphor wrote itself across the decade. In February 1848, Marx and Engels published the Communist Manifesto, an ideology born at the Gemini degree of Aquarius, where ideas reshape collective structures. The Irish famine drove millions of people to their graves and another million into immigrant ships, exposing the lethal indifference buried inside the British imperial dream. The Mexican-American War redrew the map of North America under the banner of manifest destiny, a national myth so powerful that it justified the seizure of half a continent. Everywhere, the invisible was becoming visible. Dreams were being named, and the naming changed everything. 1917. The king, devoured by his kingdom. Leo, 4 degrees. On July 31st, 1917, Saturn and Neptune met at 4 degrees Leo, the Cancer degree. Leo is sovereignty, the divine right to rule, the throne that claims to embody the people. Cancer is the people themselves, the homeland, the family, the ones who belong to the kingdom the king claims to protect. A king destroyed by the very people he said he ruled for. That is the Russian Revolution in a single astrological sentence. Tsar Nicholas II had already abdicated by March, unable to hold the structure together as war, famine, and strikes tore the empire apart. By July, workers and soldiers filled the streets of Petrograd in the uprising known as the July Days. The same month, Saturn and Neptune made their exact conjunction. By November, the Bolsheviks had seized power entirely. The Romanov dynasty, which had ruled for 300 years, was gone. Within a year, the Tsar and his entire family would be executed in a basement in Yekaterinburg. But the Cancer degree carried a warning the revolutionaries could not hear. Cancer protects, and Cancer devours. The Bolsheviks, who claimed to fight for the motherland, became the new sovereigns, and the regime they built would prove as ruthless as the one they destroyed. The same transit energy that toppled the throne built a new one in its place. The dream changed costumes. The structure of power did not. 1989. The wall that was never permanent. Capricorn at 10 degrees. On November 9th, 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. 4 days later, on November 13th, Saturn and Neptune met at 10 degrees Capricorn, the Capricorn degree, double Capricorn. Structure collapsing under its own structural weight. For anyone who grew up during the Cold War, the wall was not a political arrangement. It was reality itself. James Bond fought the Russians. Tom Cruise shot down Russian MiGs. Pink Floyd mythologized walls, personal, political, psychological, until the very concept seemed permanent. The Soviet Union was the immovable object against which the entire Western world defined itself. And then, in a matter of weeks, it was dust. The Capricorn degree doubled down on what Capricorn already does. It tests every structure for integrity, and what could not bear its own weight came down. The Soviet system had been hollowed out for decades, economically unstable, ideologically exhausted, held together by inertia and fear. Saturn-Neptune did not destroy it. Saturn-Neptune revealed that it was already destroyed. The conjunction made the invisible visible, and once everyone could see the emptiness behind the architecture could no longer stand. But on the other side of the world, the same transit energy met a different response. In June of that year, Chinese students filled Tiananmen Square with the same longing for freedom that was breaking walls in Berlin. The Chinese government answered with tanks. One wall fell, another was reinforced with violence. Same energy, same year, different relationships to the dream, and different consequences for those who dared to name it. The pattern. Trace the line from 1703 to 1989, and a single engine emerges. Saturn-Neptune conjunctions do not create crises. They reveal the distance between what a society believes about itself and what is actually true. Peter the Great saw Russia living inside a medieval dream and forced it into modernity. The American colonies saw an entire empire claiming justice while practicing extraction, and they documented every contradiction. Marx saw an economic system devouring its own workers and gave the critique a name. The Russian Revolution saw a throne claiming divine authority over a starving people, and the people took the throne. Ancient chronology is debated territory. Dates from this era can shift by decades depending on which scholarly framework is used, but within the most widely accepted timeline, the last time Saturn and Neptune both occupied 0 degrees Aries was approximately 1742 BC. The conjunction itself formed at 29 degrees Pisces, the anaretic degree, carrying the urgency of completion before Saturn crossed into Aries first and held 0 degrees as Neptune followed. What was happening in Mesopotamia at that threshold? Hammurabi, king of Babylon, had just completed one of the most extraordinary acts of initiation in human history, receiving what he claimed was divine law from Shamash, the god of justice, and carving 282 statues into a 7-foot basalt stele for all to see. Saturn, structure, law, stone; Neptune, divine inspiration, the god's mandate. Aries, the individual will imposing itself on reality, the oldest comprehensive legal code in recorded history, emerging at the same degree where Saturn and Neptune meet again on February 20th. We cannot hold this to the same evidentiary standard as 1773 or 1989, but the resonance is hard to ignore. The last time this degree was activated, a human being carved a dream into stone and called it law. The question is what gets carved this time. February 20th, 2026, the return to Aries, 0 degrees. Saturn and Neptune have not met in Aries since 1703, 323 years, and the last time they met here at 11 degrees, the Aquarius degree, the energy expressed as collective reform, a czar remaking civilization, the individual will harnessed to a communal vision. This time they meet at 0 degrees, and 0 degrees changes everything. At the Aquarius degree, Peter the Great's Aries was filtered through the reformer's lens. At 0 degrees, there is no filter. The degree doubles the sign. This is Aries as Aries, the pure, unmoderated assertion of the self. The first degree of the first sign in the entire Zodiac. Not reform, not modernization, initiation itself. The dream that becomes visible this time is not one's empire or one's ideology. It is the dream of who you have been pretending to be. Neptune has spent its final years in Pisces dissolving the collective illusion, the commodified spirituality, the performed identities, the consensus reality that was already fractured before it shattered. Now Neptune enters Aries and the disillusion turns personal. Saturn follows, demanding that whatever self emerges from the fog be built on something real. This is not a transit that asks you to fix the system. This is a transit that asks you to stop hiding inside it. The structures that collapse now in your life, in the culture, in the institutions you assumed were permanent are collapsing because the dream they were built on has become visible. And once you can see it, you cannot unsee it. The question is not whether the old structures will fall. The pattern across 3 centuries has already answered that. The question is, what are you willing to build in their place, and whether you love the life trying to emerge through you more than the fear of what it will cost to let it in. Every Saturn-Neptune conjunction reveals the distance between the dream and the real. This one asks you to close it, not by retreating into a new illusion, but by becoming the person who no longer needs one. What does the initiation look like in your life? What structures have you mistaken for permanent? And what is the first honest act of the self that remains when the dream burns away? I hope this message has been helpful to you. I hope what we shared here is empowering you through the week. I'm so grateful to be here with you and to have your listening ear. And I look forward to reconnecting with you next week. Thank you for listening to the Weekly Transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you, or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog-Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.